Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are back. Welcome to another edition of the CJK Experience. And I am your gracious host, Mr. CJK. And you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you are here with the kid, and I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, it should be a good show. I don't plan for it to be super, super long today. Um, because your man's is hungry and he want to spend some time with his lady. My lady been putting in work today, man. She done cleaned this house from top to bottom, washed all the clothes, really done did her thing. So I gotta put some respect on her name tonight. So, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we got a dope panel. We got Chris. Now Chris is in the building. We're gonna bring her in right now, and we got King Gene. Shout out to Chris and King Gene. I gotta get an applause button. I have to get an applause button. Shout out to M3, Knowledge and Relationships in the building. We appreciate that. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, we do have the link in the description if you want to call in. You must be on camera, but we're gonna do something. If the show gets popping and a lot of people decide to call in, what we're gonna do is that when we get up to five people, um, we're only gonna have five people max. So if you want to call in after that, you'll get a opportunity to say what you need to say, and then we got to keep it pushing because what I don't want to do is have too much clutter. I truly enjoyed the conversation we had on Friday, but it was just too many people. You know what I'm saying? And I really feel like I couldn't get um everybody's time properly. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it right into it. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. King Gene, Chris, what's going on? How y'all doing this evening? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the invite. Doing wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you, CJ. Doing
Hey man.
well, man.
Hey, y'all go if y'all watching, I need y'all to go check out King James channel and I need y'all to go check out the Bloom and Ebony because what they doing over there, they are bringing some great content. Chris just had an episode today where she talked to her pops, and I thought that was very dope. Yeah, we need more conversations like that. And King Gene is always bringing the real, showing you how to level up. And these are the people I rock with, man. They real solid individuals. So y'all go check out their channels and their platforms and support them because we need the promotion of new black media. So let's get them voices out there. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get straight to it. Is black culture trash? Now recently on the Lapeef Let's Talk show, very popular show on YouTube right now. Anton Daniels, a mentor of mine, somebody I talk to pretty regularly, he made a statement on the show. He said, "Is black culture trash?" Well, no, he said black culture is trash, and it caused a stir. Some people liked it. Well, not liked it. Some people agreed. Some people didn't. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, I gotta get y'all take. We got Mr. Hall of Fame in the building. What's up,
What's
Mr.
going on, great people? CJ, this is phenomenal, man. Thank you for having me on your platform. Salute.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I got mad love for y'all. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna start with Chris because I know Chris trying to get some time in. So, Chris, black culture is it trash? I'm gonna start with that question. Just off rip, is black culture trash to you?
Um, in ways, yes. In ways, yes, I think it is. I think there are parts of Black culture that we can throw away and never look back. you know, um, I don't think all of it is trash, but I think the parts of it that are unfortunately promoted, the parts of it that are so. For example, growing up, I was always considered not Black. I was considered whitewashed, just because of the way that I speak, the way that I acted. And, even though we always like to say, like, being Black doesn't have to be, the equivalent of ratchetness or being loud and ghetto. Unfortunately, that's what people see. And that's what they think of when they think of it. And I think, even though we like to believe that there's so much more to Black culture, I do think that what we're putting out on the forefront is trash. And I think that it needs to change.
King James, same question.
I have to agree with Chris because one thing I have noticed is and then I watched the particular episode of the P show, and Anton mentioned that, and when I heard him say that, uh, it wasn't a surprise to me because when you look at the way that as a people we move, there are some difficulties that we got to iron out. There's some things that we have to do away with. But now, what Chris said just really struck a nerve with me too, because a lot of times being intelligent, being well spoken, those things are not things that you would necessarily put along with our particular culture. You know, it's almost as if we are at home or we're comfortable with the dysfunction. And so I think that not necessarily that the whole culture is trash, but the elements that are being highlighted, the elements that are being used to make money, the elements that are used to destroy our national image are things that are negative. And so I'd say, as far as percentage wise, with the culture, I'd say at least 60%. At least 60% of the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis from our culture, we just need to rework.
Okay. What's up, M3? M3 in the building. What's going on?
What's up, CJ Cows?
How you
Thank you
doing?
for
Man?
Three. Yes, sir.
doing pretty good. How you doing, Hall of Fame? And how you
Yeah.
doing, sir? And Chris as well.
Hi.
Yeah. So,
Same question
um,
to you, my brother.
I want to be honest with you. I have mixed feelings about it, right? Because it's an answer that it's an answer that is really hard to say because you know part of me wants to kind of go back to like the old school ways of how black culture really was when they had family values, when they used to have this whole thing. It's like it takes a village to raise a person, to raise a kid. And, modern black families, I feel like because they lost that, I can see why Anton made that point to say black culture was trash. I think what makes it trash though is that what we praise on, and what we advertise. Because the media puts a negative picture on us. We have to understand that. The media is always going to look at us as we're like a bunch of glorified, ignorant rappers. And here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with rap or hip hop. Hip hop wasn't trash back then, but they're choosing trash type of people to advertise this false sense of glorification to make it seem more enticing. And I think because black people, we fall into that media and we paint ourselves as like this is what it means to be accepted. I think that mentality is what makes black culture today trash.
Hall of Fame.
No, we're not. Black culture isn't trash. It's not. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is that what we have to do is start allowing these people to label themselves as black culture. Cardi B ain't black culture. Meg Thee Stallion ain't black culture. All these rappers and all these people that are acting a fool on TV is not black culture. Martin Luther King is black culture. We are black culture. All of us on here are black culture because we are doing something positive. That's black culture. Is a positive elements of our culture. You know what I'm saying? Malcolm X is black culture. Muhammad Ali is black culture. You know what I mean? That's black culture. Nelson Mandela is black culture. You know what I mean? That's black culture. All other stuff does not represent us. You know what I'm saying? All other stuff is people who are miseducated and who are basically negative people who are doing things to hurt themselves. You know what I mean? That's not representative of us. That's them. You know what I mean? Just like when real Italians say, "Hey, we have nothing to do with the mob." That's not our culture. That's a separate entity of people who are just, who just maybe from Italy, but that has nothing to do with us. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with it. So we have to stop giving these people something that they don't deserve. They don't deserve to be called black culture because they haven't earned that right. Just like you see all these artists and they want to be legends automatically. You're not a legend. You sold one album. You're not a legend. Whitney Houston's a legend. Michael Jackson's a legend. Those are legends. And until you get to that point, you're not a legend. So we got to stop giving these people labels that they don't deserve. Black culture is black culture and being a part of black culture is something that you have to earn and deserve. Bruno Mars is black culture. That's a good representation of black culture. Somebody positive, something that represents something good. So that's not black culture because it's something negative. Black culture are things that are positive and that's moving us forward and that's going to help us to be empowered and be strong and loving ourselves and loving each other. And that's all I got to say about that.
I'll say the streams that we. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, when it comes to quote unquote black culture, I think we really need to define. Well, I don't think we really need to, but I think it needs to be defined on what being black actually is, because I noticed that within our community, we include so many people within being black, and then some of those same people we like to include, that as soon as they get around the dominant society, they distance themselves from actually being black. So one thing that I think actually needs to be determined is what is being black, and number two, what is actually black culture to begin with. I think some of these terms are just thrown around so loosely that people can just put any type of perception on it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the dominant society, the people that control the mass media, they've ran with a specific narrative to tell you what black culture is. And it almost seems as if American blacks are almost in a tricky situation, because it's like we've been known to be the people with no home. American black people, the people with no real culture, the people with no actual home. You know what I'm saying? So is there bad parts of for the sake of the conversation, what everybody perceives as culture? Of course. Absolutely, there are bad parts. But at the same time, there are a lot of good parts. But that is why, and Chris really inspired this today. She really inspired this show. So shout out to Chris. That is why, oh God, that is why, the guy, y'all can't see, but the guy in here just threw me off. I don't know.
You talking about from You're Pushing It 4T?
No. Somebody who's trying to get in on the stream, and he's stroking his beard and all that, and I can't really see his face. But anyway, black culture, like we have to define what that really is. So, like I said, it is important that we have media to have important conversations, and we push and promote those things. So, but at the same time, I cannot just look past all the ratchetness that is passed along with being black, because there is an issue, and I feel that there is a certain agenda. And I wanted to ask the panel, is there a certain agenda?
Most definitely there is an agenda. But like I was saying, like I've been previously saying, they have to earn the right to be a part of a culture. Any other culture, you have to earn the right to be a part of that culture. They make you go to ceremonies. They make you go to different things for you to be a part of that culture. You're not just in that culture just to be in that culture.
Hall of Fame, not to cut you off. Hey, Samir Syria, if I can't see your whole face, then I'm not gonna let you in this live stream. I gotta see your whole face, bro. I could not just the beard. See, I don't play them kind of games. I'm not playing them games. So he's out of here. But anyway.
Shall I continue?
What'd you say? Go ahead, Hall of Fame. I just want to let people know, like, you're not gonna be trolling today. Like, if you really want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation. But all this playing with the beard and all that kind of stuff, and the people couldn't see it. But all right, go ahead, Hall of Fame. My bad.
No, it's cool. Any other culture, they police their culture, and if you are not representing the culture well, they're not going to let you represent them. They're not. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to start policing our culture better. That's all. That's all it is, and make it a privilege to be a part of culture, because it is a privilege. It is a privilege. You know what I'm saying? And if you are not qualified to be a part of this culture, guess what? You ain't gonna be representing the culture. You could be African all day. You could have all African in you. You can even have an African name, but you won't be a part of African or Black culture. You just won't be because you ain't representing it right. So make people earn that right. You know what I mean? If you go to if you for, you know for you to be a part of any field, you have to earn the right. I had to go to school to become a computer technician. You know what I'm saying? M3 had to go through his classes to be where he's at today with his career. You had to go through training, CJ. We all had to go through different training to be qualified to be where we at. So make these people stand up and be qualified, and that's what they did back in the days. That's what we did back in the days. We made people be qualified. If they weren't qualified, we got them out of there, and that's what we have to do.
Chris, as a woman, as the only woman on the panel, do you feel that these rappers, like these female rappers, like the Cardi B's and the Megan Thee Stallions, do you feel that they're being pushed by the mass media, as an agenda, like with the agenda to ruin the minds of our young, impressionable Black women, Black young girls? Do you feel like there's an agenda, or do you just feel like it's parenting and people should be like the parents should watch what they allow their kids to consume?
Well, I think it's, capitalism and the background. Like, I think people are going to buy what's demanded. Like if they want it, there's a market for it. People are going to buy it, and you need someone to sell it, if that makes sense. And I feel like there's a huge market for the type of music and the type of image the female rappers you refer to are selling. Do I think, like, when I hear the word agenda being pushed, I immediately interpret it as they're being forced to do it. I think that they had a choice. You know what you're doing when you enter that entertainment industry. You know what you're signing up for, and you know the image you're putting out into the world. And so, do I think that it's like the idea that I feel like when we say that the agenda is being pushed, I feel like it kind of shifts the accountability from the artist to kind of like this invisible person who we never see behind the scenes, and the media, the industry, or the like the filmmakers or whoever's that team. Instead of us putting I feel like the conversation should be, why are those women even choosing that lifestyle in the first place? What got them there? Is there an agenda being pushed? Possibly, but they still have to decide to be the face of the person pushing the agenda. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
so
no,
I understand
yeah, I
what's being
understand.
said.
Yeah,
I understand
no,
that there could be an agenda being pushed, but they still have to sign the paper. What got
fact.
them to the position where they were hoping, or their life was taking them to a direction to push that type of image, and let themselves be that image.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, nobody's forcing you to sign those contracts. No one's forcing you to do any of that. So, King Gene, I got to get your thoughts on it, sir. Being a gentleman, who is a parent and everything like that, or yeah, is a parent, took care of children and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel that it's more of the parents' responsibility? Do we need to take more accountability and what that we let our young people consume, and what we consume as individuals, what we choose to spend our money on, what we choose to watch on television? Or do you feel like there is some sort of an agenda?
Well, I'll be honest with you, CJ. I think it's a mixture of both. But speaking personally for myself, I do believe that as a parent, I'm accountable for the things that I allow to go into my mind and the mind of my daughter. So I'm very careful about those things, because sooner or later, whatever you're taking in is going to manifest itself somewhere. It's going to come out. And if you want positive things to come out, then that's what you should take in. But now at the same time, I think that or some of us in our community, we profit from painting the worst picture of our culture. We make money off that, whether it's songs, whether it's movies, entertainment in general. There's a lot of people involved that profit from painting us in a way where we're savages. And so I think at that point, when things start to become too much, then as a community, we need to look at it, but as parents, we need to too, because if you're involved in a situation where let's just take me for instance, my daughter hears about something. We were talking today about twerking, and I told her, I said, now that was reserved at one point for individuals in the strip club, and now it's become mainstream and it's popular to do that. But I had to help her to appreciate that if you want to be taken seriously as a young lady, if you want to preserve your femininity, that's something that you don't need to be interested in. So even though it's out there and it's being pushed, as parents, we need to do more to say, okay, this is not the proper way to go. This is not something that's going to get you the results that you want. So I think it's a combination of both, really.
What's cracking, Japrice?
Hi, good evening.
And how you doing? How you doing?
Great,
Since
how are you? Hi.
since
Hey
Miss Japrice is another lady, we got the six, so
Hi.
we gonna rock with the six out until somebody decides that they can't rock no more. So for anybody else that's watching the show, you are more than welcome to call up, chime in, give your opinion. But you just got to say your statement. We got to keep it pushing. We don't want to get too many people on. So we got the six. And plus the priest is a female, so we like the female energy up in here. So, we getting her to rock with us tonight. So, as long as she can. Um, so yeah, that would you were dropping gems right there, King Gene. You were definitely dropping gems right there. Chris, I gotta go back to the conversation about inclusivity, right? Well, maybe I didn't bring this up on your live. Maybe I did. And I want to ask this to the panel too. But before I do that, let me just write this down so I don't forget. I got to ask Mrs. Japrice thoughts because I didn't get to ask her. Miss Japrice, Black culture, is it trash?
Oh, she laughing.
You're muted. You muted, dear.
Sorry.
Oh, you good.
Is Black culture trash?
It's trash. Garbage. Is it garbage?
Um, yes.
What percentage do you think is trash? Like, if you had to give it like a percentage.
I would say about 80%.
That's
I
a
would say
strong
about
number.
80%.
Can you explain? If you
Okay,
go ahead.
so the 20% that I won't say is trash is probably like our foods. Our foods, our
What
food.
is Black culture? I think that's the best
Okay,
question.
that's the thing.
What is Black culture?
Okay, I do not know. I mean, because I don't know what we are considering Black culture. To me, I don't think so. When I think of culture, I would think of like other ethnicities where they have like a continuous culture, a way that they do things, like their arts and I looked up the word culture, and it says like the customs, the arts, the social institutions, the achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social groups, the attitudes and the behavior characteristics of a partial group. That's what the definition of culture is. I looked it up before I joined. So with that being said, I really don't know exactly what our culture is. Like what is African American, like Black American culture, besides American culture, which everyone in America, you know, kind of have. Like I don't think we have an actual culture that is ours because we live in America. Besides, like Africa, but some people don't really go by it that they're African. So to me, I don't really know exactly what is considered our culture besides the negative stuff that is, magnetized to us.
Hall of Fame. What's culture? What is Black culture?
I hate repeating myself, but I will again. Okay, like I said, Black culture is the Dr. King, Malcolm. You know what I mean? Marcus Garvey. That's Black culture. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that represent us in a positive light. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between culture and ratchetness, and we got to understand the difference. Ratchetness is women twerking, acting a fool, down talking they men, putting other men down, doing all types of craziness, setting men up, doing all types of craziness. You know what I mean? That's ratchetness. Ratchetness is brothers, doing the gang violence, coming, not showing up to work on time, not, coming to functions, with they ass hanging out, you know what I mean, not wearing a belt, you know what I mean, just straight up, just being just completely dysfunctional and negative. So we gotta look at ratchetness and culture. There's a difference. That's ratchetness. Culture, you know what I mean, are the things the sister was saying, the highlights of who we are as a people. You know what I mean? And I just want to make a statement to the brother that said, there's different African cultures. No, there's different African customs, but it's one culture. A Frenchman and a Dutchman, may have different customs, but it's still European culture. It's still European culture. You know what I mean? So it's still African culture, whether it's in America, whether it's in England, whether it's in, wherever it's at, it's still African culture. If you're African descent, you know what I mean, you represent when you represent African culture, unless you're doing ratchetness. Now, other cultures have ratchetness too. Like I said, you have other cultures that have the mob, or they have you know what I'm saying, different, the triads, or different groups that may not represent the positive parts of those people, and the people feel a way about that. They feel like that doesn't represent us. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like, and they have spoken out against that. So that's what that's what we need to see. You know what I mean? And to call our culture trash is calling ourselves trash, and none of us are trash on here. None of us are trash on here. So we don't need to call our culture trash either. You know what I mean? Our culture isn't trash. Now, ratchetness behavior, now that is trash. So if they being ratchet and they want to be gangbangers and all that, that's trash. But that's not our culture. You know what I mean? I refuse to let them be part of our culture, because being a part of our culture, like any culture, is a privilege.
Chris, what is black culture?
To be honest, I don't know. For me, I think Black culture is a mix of both what we do. Like, I think about immediately. I think of our celebrations. Like Pre said, food is like a big part that she thinks of. Like that 20% that she thinks is good. The music that we listen to, the way that we, celebrate birthdays, the way in which we move through life. To celebrate each other, to spend time with families. How we structure our values, prioritize our values. So that's like more internal, like just things that we do. But then also I think culture is external as well, how people view us. When people think of Black people, what do they think of? What do they see? And that's where I struggle. It's like, I want to think that Black culture is Martin Luther King. That's how I try to live my life. But unfortunately, when I think about it, I don't think people, when they think of Black culture, they think of Martin Luther King. I think they honestly think of Megan Thee Stallion. As much as I would love for us to be able to say our culture is not ratchetness, but personally, I feel like most of my life, I've been denied having my, my Black card, because I don't act the way people want me to act, and that's really unfortunate. And so I want to agree with Mr. Hall of Fame so bad. And what he's explaining just sounds like a utopia, and it sounds beautiful. But unfortunately, I think our culture, to the outside world, we come off as what we see in the entertainment industry.
You want to know what's funny to me? I think the dominant society, and I'm referring to the majority of white people in the country, I think they have an amazing way of trickery. And when I say trickery, I'm about to explain it. The ratchetness that we have in our community, it's condemned amongst us as bad, and to the rest of the world as bad. But do you notice how they flip their ratchetness into profit, and it's almost made to seem like a great thing? I'll give you an example. You ever seen the movie Juno?
Nah.
No, I don't watch that type of stuff. I ain't into that crap.
Yes.
Okay. The movie Juno is about teen pregnancy. A teenage white girl who got pregnant. You ever seen the show Teen Mom? Majority of white girls getting pregnant in their teens, flipping it, just flipping it. Now it's season after season after season, and they're lifting it up as if it is such a great thing. Is that white culture? Is that white American culture? It's plenty of seasons. They have Teen Mom OG,
Yep.
Teen Mom this. If you see Maury, you know what I'm saying? Like all kinds of stuff. So I just thought it was quite interesting. Japrice, you look like you was about to say something. Then I'm gonna get to M3. Then I gotta get to King Gene. What was you about to say, Japrice?
I want to say something about when you mentioned the movie Juno and coincidentally the show Teen Mom. There was a lot of backlash for that movie and
I
for
remember.
the show. A huge backlash. They were protesting. They're trying their hardest to take that movie down. Like I don't even think it's even showing that much. And the show Teen Mom, they weren't trying to take it down. I don't know exactly what, but I remember it was so much backlash from that community. Like hardcore backlash. They're literally trying to like get like I know there you can look it up. I know there was a teen, there was a mom, I mean not a mom, well a teen mom on there, and her parents like took her off of the show and like said like don't do this show anymore. It was like a whole thing. I don't get that a lot from us with like love and hip hop and stuff like that. I think we just ourselves. I think we just accept it. I think we just accept it because they're like, hey, you know, because in a way we like, okay, yeah, that is us. That's that is us. I also want to say one more thing. I'm so sorry if that.
Go ahead.
It's like a question. Do you guys agree that like tradition and culture goes hand in hand? Because I think that tradition and culture
You broke up. I couldn't hear part of the question.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. No, I can hear you. It's just a little broken up.
Okay, sorry. So I said, do you think that culture and tradition it goes hand in hand? Like tradition turns into culture. Like a tradition is something that's repeatedly done like throughout generation. Like to say like every Sunday at grandma's house, everyone has dinner. Everyone comes over for dinner, and it turns into a tradition, which means it turns into culture. It becomes a part of our culture. Do you guys agree?
M3, you want to answer that? Because I said I was going to go to you next. You want to answer that?
I couldn't really hear that last part because it was breaking up a little bit. Sorry about that.
Okay, maybe it's my fan. Do you guys mind if I take 1 second? I get up and turn the fan off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem.
I think she was asking if Black culture and tradition goes hand in hand. So, like, is it the same thing? And I think that's a very good question. She's back. I'll let her ask it again.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, do you think that tradition and culture goes hand in hand?
I mean, it depends because, like, because I feel like with us, you know, we have a certain type of tradition based on our upbringing. I don't think it's the majority, but I mean, let me say this: like, for us, you know, if we follow the practicals of what our grandparents taught us, you know, our great grandparents, and we start to really like, you know, respecting our women, or women start respecting us, you know, building families and communities. See, the thing is, like with us, we was once community. I'm hearing an echo, sorry, but we're more like community based, you know, and I feel like that was part of like, you know, our Black culture was to making sure that each and every child was protected. You know, each and every person in our community was well taken care of and was looked after, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm answering the question right as far as the traditional patterns, and having like our family, like, you know, like gatherings, you know, part of our culture traditionally, I think it ties in within the fine arts, you know, which why we have music, which we have theater arts. You know, we have like a lot of creative things that is a part of us. But European society, what they did was, and I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, but I feel like, they flipped their side of rationalness through statistics, and then they framed it on us. One last example, like welfare. Unfortunately, our people, including the majority of people, believe that we're like the most people that uses a lot of like welfare benefits. But really it's white people that use those type of benefits. But we're always painted as people who has poor health, always poor, not doing nothing, always gotta rely on the government, putting us on love and hip hop to show, hey, this is what black culture is about. A bunch of silly, stupid, ratchet people that's talking ignorant and not knowing what they're doing. Hopefully that part makes sense.
Okay, so to respond to what you just said,
Mhm.
I'm so sorry not to like interfere with anybody else, but
Mhm.
so I think the reason why that is when they say like, oh, there's like black people that's on welfare, and you said that actually no, white people take up majority of the welfare percentage. I
Mhm.
think it's because of if you take like okay, if you take our race, let me just actually be realistic, our race, we are, let's just say we're 10 people and they're 20 people.
Mhm.
11 of their people are on with welfare. 8 of us are on welfare. There is majority of them on welfare, but it's only 10 of us. So it majority of us are on the welfare versus their race, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're saying like, okay, there's more of them that's on there, but then there's few of us, right?
Yeah,
That's
like
what you said? Okay.
right, because our race is so small. So majority of us
Mhm.
are on there. So it makes it so majority of our race is
Okay.
on welfare. However, they are on welfare as well, but not many of their race is on welfare.
I think
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
yeah, because if we're 13% and most of our 13% is on welfare, it doesn't equal to their majority. If they're 47% and only 5 of them are on welfare, they're just the majority of people in the country.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah, I get it now. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to King Gene, but I gotta say this because I be writing my stuff down so I don't forget it, because y'all know I be forgetting stuff. I think tradition and culture, to me, it does go hand in hand, um, to a point, even when it can be detrimental. For example, like a lot of black people vote out of tradition and not necessity. A lot of us have been voting in a presidential election for 50 plus years. And in my opinion, it's just my opinion, hasn't gotten us nowhere. And I honestly think we're in the same position. And I think a lot of people look at symbolism as achievement. Now, whether that's you want to put that side to side with black culture, then so be it. But I just think we have to be careful. I'm gonna go to King Gene, then I got to get the caller on who's here, Mr. Dogan. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but go ahead, King Gene. Drop what you thinking.
But now, when Japriest, and we're glad to have you here tonight too. But when Japriest made the question, uh, it kind of threw a caveat at me because uh, when you look at tradition going hand in hand with culture, tradition is rooted in knowing where you come from, who you are. And that's just not the case here. The majority of us cannot tell you where in Africa they came from, what tribe they descended from, what was their original language. So where is the tradition coming from, as opposed to other cultures now? Other cultures that we're surrounded by, they have thousands of years of culture behind it. They have thousands of years of developing organized systems to direct them. They've developed a tradition over thousands of years, and we just hadn't done that. We hadn't had the ability because who we are as a people, we're unaware of. So now, if that's the case, then what traditions are we practicing? And if we are starting to practice traditions, then those traditions aren't as dated as the ones of other cultures. So it's as if we're just learning to adapt to things. We're just learning to get things right. We're taking our first steps. That's why I said I think it's a caveat, because if I don't know what the traditions are of my people in the past, then how can I practice them? The only thing I know is the traditions that have been given to me while I was in this particular country. And so a lot of those traditions, they don't help us as a people. They're not beneficial. So like it's like you mentioned, CJ, up until a point, tradition and culture runs hand in hand, especially if you're not aware of the history of your culture.
Appreciate
and I
that.
have a question because according to what tradition is, we don't like, so basically we don't have a culture because we don't have tradition because we don't really have a tradition. So that's why when you ask what is Black culture, I would say we don't really have one.
Am I pronouncing your name right? Doggin?
It's Dogon. Can you hear me?
Dogon. Yeah, I can hear you. All right. Shout out to you, Dogon. Thanks for joining the panel. So yeah, go ahead. What you? How do you feel about it? Is Black culture trash?
I kind of agree with the panel here. It's what we're calling Black culture now. Yeah, that's trash. That's absolute trash. It's debauchery and it's garbage. And so from the music to the fashion, I love the dancing though. The dancing these young people are doing right now, I think that's outstanding. But everything else, bro, it is absolute trash. And it's a supplied culture, bro. It's not our own. It's what they told us we can do. It's what's incentivized to do. And so a lot of our youth has been falling into the traps. And so I'm 35 right now. And it took me, I knew something was very wrong when I hit about 30, about what I was told, what was my goals in life and what I had to achieve, what type of women I needed to have, what type of car I needed to drive. And then it wasn't really until recently, I say it was in like the last 2 years, where I was like, man, they got me. They got me. Whatever system, me growing up watching Family Matters is what I'm talking about. Just being a part of American culture, listening to the radio all the time, listening to the same songs, watching the same videos everybody else was watching. And it was like, man, I was chasing partying, irresponsibility, just nothing. And so now, as a grown man, and I'm seeing the traps that are laid out for the youth, and they're just falling right into it. It's just the new traps, and the kids are falling right into it. And the parents don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, I'm pretty sure they do, but they just don't think twice because they were part of the same type of systematic mind control too, just in their generation. And so, yeah, man, like right now it is just, slowly but surely gotten worse, and it gets more and more debaucherous over time.
Whose fault is that? You said Dogon, right?
Yeah, Dogon.
Yeah, whose fault is that, Dogon? What part as Black American people do we take in the accountability for the state of quote unquote Black culture today?
Man, that's a deep question, bro, because I mean, I've always looked at myself as a free thinker, but what I got at was, like I said, the music. And I knew, like, because I'm one of those people that say, hey, whatever you ingest physically, your body is, right? And then so whatever you ingest mentally is whatever your thoughts and your manifestations are. But I would still listen to the same trashy, debaucherous music and still watch the videos. And so even though I saw myself as a free thinker, man, I wasn't. Because I listened to the crap. And so it wasn't, I mean, as I got older, the music started really I don't connect with the music anymore. And I really don't listen to the old stuff anymore. And I had time for myself and free thoughts. Go ahead.
Can I ask y'all a question? Is Eminem Black culture? Because for years, when Eminem first came out, he talked about killing, raping, killing his own mother, killing his baby mama. all that kind of stuff. And white people largely embraced him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? As far as I know, a lot of black people don't mess with Eminem like that because we simply can't. A lot of us can't relate to the stuff he was talking about. Eminem took a black format and did his own thing with it. A talented MC, but is Eminem black culture? Does he contribute? Was he contributing to the garbage music and the influence that was happening in white communities, white on white crime? You dig what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's a very fine line when we ask or when we talk about black culture, because somebody can take what we call black culture, who's not black, make profit off of it, send horrible messages out there, but nobody on the black end cares. They're not going to get much pushback from them. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I just say like it all depends on acceptance. Like, I mean, I would say like, okay, no, Eminem doesn't really represent black culture, but here's where we get divided, because you have one group of us that thinks a certain way, and then you have the other side that's like, well, Eminem is like my jigga or whatever. I'm not trying to say that the N word, but you know what I mean. And so when you have that jigga type of mentality, it's like you're gonna accept anything that brings that type of garbage into the table. And like, well, he can rap. He raps just better than like most black people could rap. So unfortunately, people in the music industry is going to embrace him. And you have to understand too, yeah, even though the music industry, right, glorify stuff that black people rap about, but it's still controlled by white society. So I'm not surprised, like, if you have some of these people that says, yeah, Eminem represent us. But he's really representing, like, the corruption of the music industry. And I'm not just saying just film, but anybody.
Chris, let me get your thoughts. And wait, before you go, Chris Dogon, is there anything you wanna say before we have to let you slide off, man?
No, man, I just wanted to chime in and give my, let you guys know that, even the free thinkers and even the people that call themselves conscious, quote unquote, woke or what have you, they were all susceptible to the same levels of mind control. And it takes a long time to unravel that web that they put in a lot of our brains. So a lot of the things that we do right now as a people is due to systematic mind control. So just wanted to just give my little piece and say peace to everybody and appreciate the platform, brother.
Peace to you, my brother.
Man, I appreciate you joining in, man, and
right.
calling, bro. Hopefully you stick around, man. We're gonna be doing a lot more, bro. I appreciate you.
All right, no pressure, brother.
Yeah. Hopefully what I was saying makes sense.
Chris, what you think about that?
And the question was, is Eminem black culture?
I mean, well, you can just pretty much chime in on any part that we've been talking about. I mean, it originally wasn't specifically about Eminem, but I just used him as an example. If you want to comment on that, go ahead.
Okay. I think Eminem represents hood culture, and then we have to ask ourselves: do black people attach themselves with that hood culture? I don't think he specifically, like, for example, I believe Eminem, when he first started rapping, one of his goals was to be accepted by, like, as a rapper. And a majority of those rappers happen to be black. Like, I think a lot of his role models happen to be black, and so he wanted to be accepted into black culture, and he kind of wanted to be seen as one of the big black rappers. But I think that he had fallen subject to hood culture, but I wouldn't necessarily include him into black culture. That's a loaded question, because then we have to ask ourselves, we have to go back to answering the question, what is black culture? If we consider black culture rap, then yeah, he would fall under that umbrella.
And that's what I'm saying. I think we have to be very careful when we use terms like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that could be taken as anything. Because if Eminem sold 50 million records and 98%, or I would say 96, maybe 90% of the people that bought those albums were white, and they hear Eminem and they decide to go slap their mama, is that now white culture? Is that now the definition of white culture? You know what I'm saying? So I think, it's a blurred line. Hall of Fame. What do you think?
Yes, I am back. I am back. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, we were just talking about like particularly like the black culture and like how somebody made a comment that hip hop it's global and not black culture. I disagree with that because hip hop is a black art form. It was started
Yep.
by black people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So to say it's not black culture, if we gonna label what black culture is, I think you have to start with something that was started by black people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I have to disagree with that comment that person made. But shout out to you. And with someone taking the black culture or a black art form like an Eminem, and he can push derogatory messages out and it be widely accepted by black people. I mean, by white people, but the lights get shined back on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would. I mean, if you look at any mostly form of any music, they have stolen it from us. The colonizers and the slave masters and whoever else have stolen it from us. You know what I mean? Opportunists have stolen it from us. The demons have stolen it from us. So even down to rock and roll, you know what I mean? They didn't want to give Chuck Berry his credit. They tried to steal all the songs. Little Richard, they tried to steal or copy or incorporate or use all their songs. They didn't want to give them credit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want to even put our picture up on our album cover. They would put a picture up of a beach or just some mundane image. They wouldn't even want to give us credit for our music that we did at all. So it doesn't surprise me that they would take that stance. Even jazz music. And I feel like our culture need to appreciate. Not even I won't even say our culture. I feel like we need to have a better understanding of what jazz is. Like I said, there's a lot of miseducation, misrepresentation of our culture. Jazz is a beautiful art form, and a lot of cultures use jazz in their music, and that's another part of our culture. You know what I'm saying? So, all music derives from our culture. All music derives from our culture. You can study, you can look it up, you can do your research. All music derives from our culture, and that music has been used, it has been sampled, it has been taken advantage of, it's been misappropriated or misrepresented. You know what I mean? But hip hop is definitely a big force in our culture. But they like to take from it what they want to take from it, and they like to try to, only highlight the ratchet artists in our culture. You know what I mean? They don't want to put a J. Cole or Lauryn Hill or somebody like that, who represents our culture well. You know what I mean, on the spotlight. They don't want to do that. They want to put Cardi B. You know what I mean? They want to put these other guys who are representing gang culture. You know what I mean? Like Jim Jones or somebody else who represent gang culture. But they don't want to put the people on there who are not representing that, who actually have a message and actually speaking to us as a people. So that's the
Hmm.
problem.
Every now and then they let somebody slide through though, like the Kendrick Lamar's. J. Cole, I would say, is probably one of the top three rappers from the 2010. So every now and then, I get what you're saying though.
Yeah.
What was you about to say, Chris? Then we can go to King Gene and Japrice. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying to get the circles right.
I had a question. So I agree that we have to show some appreciation for our culture, where it started, like where music started. But I feel like what we're doing is we're ignoring how things have evolved, and I feel like we're trying to like say we're trying to narrow ourselves to when everything was good, everything was great. Like the beginning of jazz, beginning of hip hop. But we have to also recognize that if we're owning the initiation of it, should we also own what it's evolved to today? Do we also have any part in that? Because I love, the old style hip hop, jazz, all of that. But I also have to acknowledge that the hip hop now, if we're going to own this, we may also have to own up to some of this as well, and look at how it's evolved and see, is it, if our music represent who we were then, does it still represent who we are now? And is that why it's so popular? And is that why we're seeing this kind of in the mainstream, and we're seeing so many Black people still kind of what's the word, portray themselves this way. Does that make sense?
No, I hear you, and I would say no, because if you go to other cultures and they do something out of pocket, you out of there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And
Need it.
that's a personal thing. You know what I'm saying? Well, not a personal thing, but that's a cultural thing. That's a group thing. You do something that's out of pocket, you out of there. You in some cultures you'll die.
Yep.
So it's just like, you know, nah, I don't think so. But Japrice, go ahead, sweetheart, comment, and then King Gene, or was it King Gene and Japrice? Who was
It
it?
Well, you said King James, but
Yeah.
All right, go
No, no,
ahead,
no.
King Gene. Go ahead, King Gene. My bad.
I yield to the sister. So you can go ahead.
One of y'all go. I don't care who it is.
Okay, well look, Japrice, I'll go this time. One of the things that Mr. Hall finally said that really struck a chord with me is, especially now, if we are the originators of all these wonderful art forms, it goes back to what Chris said. Then should we also be the gatekeepers? We have to be,
Yep.
because if the art form that we created is being used in a way that's not going to be beneficial for us or anyone else around, then we have to pull back. We have to say, okay, now this is not what we intended this to be. But as it stands, I don't even think we have the power to do that, because it's really gotten out of control. But now, one of the things, and it's odd that music is one of the things that we are talking about, because it really is important to us as a people, because if you are aware of our history in Africa, then every form of worship, all of the tribes, every form of worship or whatever deity they claim, music was involved in the worship of their deity. So it's an important thing. And like Mr. Hall Furman was saying, this is something we came up with. This is something that comes from us. And so because it comes from us, then we should be able to say how it's used. But like I mentioned, we don't have the power to do it at this point, because there's so much that has happened and so much we've allowed to happen that we at this point can't really put it back.
I think we have the power. We just don't enforce it like we should.
Yep.
Japrice, can I get your comments, dear?
Can you hear me? Because I have on like these AirPods, and I want to make sure you can hear me like clearly. Okay, great.
You good? You sound Gucci.
Okay. So what I was gonna say is, I know the cultures that I know, like let's just say African culture, I know pretty well, and the Asian culture I don't know pretty well, but I do know that most cultures they have like consoles. I think that's what the word is. They have like a panel like us that are like consoles that controls and stops and let the go ahead of what goes out and what doesn't. In our community, we don't have that. So that kind of goes back to tradition and culture. So is it safe to say that we don't have like a tradition? I feel like our people just evolve and we just go with the flow and we just evolve, and it's not like a good evolve. Like it's just like we just go with what is in today, because tradition, our tradition, like our culture wasn't what it is now. It's, let's just say like, I'm not really too familiar with the older school music, but I'm quite sure it wasn't what it is now. So if it was something that if it was culture, we would still be, most of our music and most of the things that we do would still be how it was back in the day. Like, okay, like Spanish music. I'm not for sure. Maybe you guys have, but I haven't really heard a lot of Spanish music that condemns women, that raps, that say anything about like killings or drugs or whatever it is. They kind of like stick to what they know, stick to the bachata, the bachata, whatever it's called. No offense to anyone that's a different in the Spanish culture, but they kind of stick to that. But with us, it's like we're all like every 10 years is something different, so that's not a culture. that isn't a culture because we're not sticking to what, you know, it is. Like, we haven't picked something that we stick to, and that is like basically our culture, because every 10 years the culture changes. Because I know the culture 10 years ago was baggy pants, you know, baggy pants, big old jerseys. Now it isn't. Now is, you know, more of a slim cut fit. Sagging is still there. Sagging is still there, but you know, but that's just my input. So that's why I asked that question, because if it was a such thing as Black culture, you know, then we would still be where we were maybe like in the 1950s. I want to say that's a good time for Black people. Like modesty and all that stuff. I feel like other cultures, like let's just say, would that even be a culture? Like modesty is still there, and of course you do have, you know, some of the people that are not following their traditions, but you know,
I
of course.
really agree with you, especially on the last part. I wanted to say, when you talked about the the panel, what was the word that you used before that? Where you were talking the council, when you were talking about the council, I think a great example of that. And even though I don't necessarily agree with this particular culture, but I respect this particular culture by the way they move, is the LGBTQ plus community, because you cannot say nothing out of the way,
Nope.
nothing out of the way, and they not come for you and check you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to respect it. I don't agree with the bullying and all that stuff, but at the same time, I have to put some respect on their name, because if you say anything out of pocket, they will come for you and try to cancel you. I mean, and they put their money where their mouth is. And I'm not trying to get into politics, but for example, when Obama was running for president, Obama wasn't with gay marriage. He said that. He's like, no, I don't rock with gay marriage like that. The LBGT said, oh, you don't, huh? They knocked on his door and gave him a check, a $10 million check. And they asked him, how you feel about LBGT now? Oh, yeah, I got people in my cabinet that's gay. I'm with gay marriage, all that stuff. So I can respect the hustle, and I can respect that how they move and everything like that. So I do agree that there does need to be some sort of council, but the world copies Black culture, if we're gonna call it that. Everything like K-pop, Korean rap, all that stuff started here. The problem is that we don't control the culture, in my opinion.
Yep.
We don't control it. We start it, but we don't control it. And if we and I agree, we do need to take accountability in it. We do need it, because some of the stuff we do is ratchet as hell. It is. So, but I do agree that we don't control it. All these music execs, most of them are Jewish. Most of them are Jewish, and they can go over there and sell the rights to our music and our name and our likeness and all that kind of stuff. A lot of us don't own it. And that's going to lead to my next question, but I'm going to let M3 go. And then shout out to Chicago Rilla, who just said he just subbed. Shout out to Chicago Rilla in the building. Yep. But go ahead, M3, do your thing. M3, you muted.
Damn, I'm sorry. I just want to say, like, I absolutely agree with what you said, CJ. You know, we are like the trendsetters. You know, if we want to really get down as far as our culture, we start stuff, but we don't solidify it. We don't keep it within our own means. See, that's like, okay, our black dollar. We want the money, but we choose to exchange our power for the dollar. You know, white people, they could take something that is less as long as, you know, there are CEOs or our supervisors. You know, we got to start operating like how the majority of other people, other nationalities operate. Like BET, you know, all these other program shows, the Breakfast Club, you know, they they talk about black issues, but not a single black person owns those type of companies. And if I go back to BET, I think BET was once owned by a black person, but then they
Bob
sold it to
Johnson.
white men.
Bob Johnson.
Mob
Sold it
Johnson.
for $3 billion.
You see what I mean? So like it's our fault that we keep giving our power to other people, and then they have the rights to control however they want to control. And that's why you have ratchet TV that you see, and then they label us as black culture is because we gave those rights up. You know, hip hop wasn't meant to like, you know, turn into like gangster rap or you know ratchet rap where you have like these Cardi B's and whatever their names are. I don't even really care, you know. But we allow ourselves to put ourselves in that state where we're unfairly judged.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, listen. This is the issue is this. Like you were saying, CJ. You know, other cultures is a life and death situation. You know what I mean? If you represent the wrong way, and that's the thing with us. With our culture, you know, we're not willing to die for our culture anymore. That's the thing. You're gonna die for something one day. You're gonna die for something or from something one day. So what are you willing to die for? Other cultures are willing to die for what they believe in. Some of them are willing to be suicide bombers and all types of other crazy stuff for their culture. Like they really riding hard. I ain't telling no black people to do that, but I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Other cultures, they really willing to go all out for theirs. All out. So, you know what I mean? You got to be willing to die for your culture. You know, Dr. King was willing to die for it. Muhammad Ali was willing to die for it. They were putting their lives on the line, their livelihood on the line, their family's livelihood on the line to stand up and say, no, we are going to have better. You know, we as a people are going to have better, and I don't care if I have to put my life on the line for it or not. And they did that. You know what I mean? They suffered. Some of them lost their lives for it. You know what I mean? But we have to be willing to do that. If we're not willing to do that, then guess what? It ain't going to work for us. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. You know what I mean? We're going to be stuck in the same thing. And like I said, there's a difference between ratchetness and culture. And that's in every culture. You know, ratchetness and negativity is one part, and then it's the actual culture. And the actual culture is the things that represent that community in a positive light. You know what I mean? And it's something that has to, like I said, it's a privilege to be a part of the culture. It's not something that you just get to be a part of. It is a privilege. And every other culture makes you, if you're going to be a part of that culture, makes you earn the right to be a part of that culture. And we have to do the same.
That's what's up. I'm gonna need
CJ?
Chicago Rillo to tap in. I'm about to let you, whoever's about to talk. But Chicago Rillo, I'm gonna need you to tap in and come on the show, man, because that's just a good look. Who was about to say something though?
Can I go really fast? I have to go.
Okay, yeah, no, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly say, Pri was saying she was talking about other cultures and the councils and all that they do in other places. And I was recently listening to this radio show, and they were talking about the difference between like tight and loose cultures. And some places, basically, they have what she was talking about, where they have these councils. A lot of the important parts of their culture are built into their laws. So you have to follow it, which we see this in a lot of Middle Eastern countries, some African countries. And America is actually one of the we have like one of the looser cultures, in the sense that we do not enforce our culture. We actually embrace an evolving culture, a different culture, and we don't necessarily expect everyone to align with our culture. I just found that really interesting, that we see this difference between like a lot of Asian countries, a lot of Middle Eastern countries, and the Western world, because of that difference in how we how our culture is kind of embedded into everything that we do. It's very different from country to country. I think that has a big impact on basically how our culture has evolved, and the reason why we don't have that kind of something filtering out this bad stuff, this negative stuff, because we just kind of accept everything, because we do have that more loose enforcement, if that makes sense.
Chris, I just gotta ask you, just if you can answer this in 1 second.
Yeah.
Are we too inclusive? Are Black people too inclusive within their culture? Are we too quick to let everybody in? And is that how we get taken advantage of?
What do you mean by, are you referring to other races in,
Yes.
or just certain people within the Black
Yes, like
community?
letting other races involved in our arts, in our culture, in our food, all that good stuff. Because we are a very welcoming people. So do you think we are too inclusive when it comes to certain things? Because for example, just real quick,
Yeah.
they let Jennifer Lopez sing a tribute to Aretha Franklin, or it was something like that at the Grammys. You are not gonna find they ain't gonna let Fantasia do that at the Latin Grammys. That's all I want, So are we a little bit too inclusive? That's what I want to ask.
I don't know if it's yes, especially with that example. I think our priorities are just different. Like, are we choosing people based on who's going to represent us well, or are we choosing people based on who's the hottest that month? Are we more worried about publicity and popularity more so than we are maintaining our image? And so I don't necessarily think that is just we're too inclusive. I think a big part of it is, we don't have the same values as a lot of other cultures. Maybe we happen to be valuing as a culture popularity and publicity. And so if J-Lo happened to be the hot thing of that month, of that year, or if she gave us the most money, we gave her the spot. And so somewhat, yeah, I can say that we're a little bit too inclusive. But also it goes back to what we value. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
Great
Chris, go
question.
subscribe to her channel, The Blooming Ebony. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry I have to go so soon.
Peace. No, do your thing. This was last
Well, I
minute.
wanted to ask you a question, Christina. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
but I know you have to go.
No, ask me. What's up?
Okay, I want to ask you, do you think that that reason being that what CJ asked is because our culture is easy to be replicated, and it's kind of like universal, I believe, because it will be very, let's just take example when I went to Africa. I can't talk in an African accent. I couldn't at that time. I couldn't understand the language and or their traditions and customs. But with ours, a lot of people were like coming up to me, and they were like asking me questions in their like American accent, and it sounded as if they were actually from here, and like the way they dress and stuff. The way they were dressing was kind of like replicating us. When I went there, like, a lot of them were dressing like us, like how Americans dress, or like how Black people dress. Do you believe that it's because, yeah, like I said, our culture is so easy to be like replicated versus I can't act like a Spanish person. I can't act like any other. I will find it really hard versus someone to be like, girl, and that's so easy to do versus me trying to act like an Indian. I wouldn't even know what to say or how to say it.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. Okay, I don't know if you guys are gonna like my answer. This may.
Nah, go ahead, babe. Go ahead.
So, you guys know the saying, humans are lazy. We like to have the easiest way out. We like things to be convenient. Mm-hmm. I think American culture in general can be very convenient. I don't think that we have the values set in place that are in a lot of other cultures. And to maintain the values and the morals that they have in other cultures is very difficult. To not drink, is very hard. To not curse is very hard. To cover up your body from head to toe in America is very, very hard. And it's a lot easier to live like an American than it is to live like they do in a lot of other countries. And so I don't necessarily think that it's easy to replicate. I think it's just easy. It's a much easier life. So it seems from the beginning. Then you have to deal with the consequences. After a few years when you had your hot girl summers and now no one wants to marry you because you have too many bodies. But I think it's not so much that it's just easy to replicate. I think that's definitely true that it can be. But I think people like to take the easiest route. And unfortunately, our culture is the easiest.
All right, Chris. Well, I'm sad that you got to go, but I understand.
Thank you so much, CJ. I really, really enjoyed this. Sorry I have to go so soon. Thank you so much for the great questions. This was
later,
wonderful.
Chris.
All right,
Hi, Chicago Gorilla. I'm sad you're leaving. I'm leaving when you pop on. I'm a big fan.
I'm by myself.
Represent us well, Pri. I believe in you.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
All right. Good night.
Y'all give it. I wish I had a bell, Chicago Rilla. I
Oh
would say
no, no,
like
nope,
a applause
nope,
thing. Give it up for
nope,
Chicago Rilla.
nope, nope.
Lil Peep,
Bro,
let's
no.
talks. Chicago Rilla, what's going on, sir?
Salute, family. I just, CJ, you are, bro, you such a solid individual, man, and you consistent with yours, man. I appreciate you, bro, and the opportunity that you extended to me to be able to even have the conversation with y'all, man. So, listen, man, I always say on the platform, this is real people having real conversations in real time about real issues that affect all of us, man. So I ain't nobody, man. Actually,
Hey
you the
man.
superstar. I done seen your content, bro. I done seen and listen, and you wearing your sunglasses at night. You the real superstar.
Hey man, hey, I'm trying, man, but no, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I've been bugging Chicago Rilla for a minute. Every live, I'm sending him a link, and I know he's trying to chill out with his lady. I appreciate you, man. To give a shout out to your lady for me. I ain't mean to take Rilla away for a minute, but I'm glad he here.
Hey man,
So,
I'm in full simp beta mode, big coochie energy, all that. It's all on deck.
so Rilla, I got to start off by asking you what I asked the panel at the beginning of the show. Is Black culture trash? And what
Absolutely
is
not.
Black culture?
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked me that. Because I know on one episode we were talking about, one of my co-hosts was saying that he asked the panel, what Black culture was, and nobody could define it. Culture, period, is, a group of people. They agree on, a set of values, morals, so on and so forth. And then it's their habits, it's their food, their art, their music, their traditions, their heritage. And the unfortunate part of when I think about Black culture, for me, I'm big on hip hop, and it's interesting that that is that's what we use all the time to define Black culture. But one thing we don't understand about hip hop, and shout out the fact that August 11th was hip hop's 48th birthday, 48th birthday.
Yep.
What people don't understand about hip hop, and what I said on in the Facebook group for Lapeef, what people don't understand about hip hop is the biggest export in America. It is the biggest export from America. It is, I'm gonna say it a third time. It is the biggest cultural export from America. Now you think about when it was founded. You have four elements: B-boy, MC, DJ, graffiti, right? Yep, all four. Okay, cool. So let's break down all four of those sectors. And this is all in New York, right? So we know that hip hop started in New York.
Yes, sir.
Primarily, the dopest graffiti writers were white boys. And if you do the knowledge and do the research, when there's is it called Wild Style or Style Wars?
Wild Style. Yep.
Well, but Style Wars is one of those documentaries where the white boy was saying we would go in and we would be able to get more spray cans because they thought all the Black kids was coming here to steal them, when actually we were coming in to get them, right? So graffiti writers primarily was dominated initially by the white boys. The B-boys was dominated by Puerto Ricans. Crazy Legs is one of the dopest B-boys that I consider myself an eternal B-boy. We revere him to this day. When you look at B Street and you look at that battle between him and Lee, and he hits man, he goes from the top rock and then he goes into his backspin, and he comes out of the backspin and he takes his shoes off and lands with his shoes on his hands, like he's spinning, takes the shoes off his feet and lands with his shoes on. Crazy. So okay, Puerto Rican. Okay, cool. So now when you think about DJing, right? DJing, we always give reverence to Kool Herc, who is the godfather of hip hop. Well, where does Kool Herc come from? Jamaica. That whole premise of when you think in terms of the sound of hip hop, it comes from Jamaica in terms of the sound clashes, the big sounds, the big speakers, so on and so forth. And then you think about the MC. And that space for obvious, I ain't gonna say obvious reasons. Well, actually, you could do you could trace back to griots in Africa and so on and so forth, but that MC space has been dominated by blacks, and that's the part that gets highlighted, and that's the part that gets cited as trash. But when you combine all four together, and you think about fashion, you think about music, you think about art. I'm a huge art collector. Well, not huge, but I'm well studied in that space, and this is something that I'm invested in. And so when you think about everything that ties into culture, are there things we need to cast away? Are there things we need to tear down? Are there things we need to, rethink and rebuild? Absolutely. But am I going to say black culture? I wore this on purpose. Am I going to say black culture or hip hop culture is trash? Absolutely not. So
let me speak to that real quick, CJ, if I may.
Go ahead.
Now, look, Chicago Rilla, I love the go, man. I love Chicago, from Common to Minnie Riperton, man, to Benji. You know what I'm saying? D Rose. Look, I'm gonna
Yep. Simeon. Yep.
I'm gonna give Shot flowers. You know what I mean? Kanye. I'm gonna give the Sade flowers. The show, The Shot, is one of my favorite shows. Period. You know what I mean? It doesn't highlight all the elements of The Shy, but it highlights some of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I know you have a really rich history. You know what I mean? That's positive and that's beautiful. But I got to speak to the hip hop scene because I'm from New York, so I got to speak from it. You know what I mean? Now, it originated, of course, with the Bronx with Kool Herc, and he was having something called the Jams. You know what I mean? They call them the Jams. They'll be in the park, Bronx River Park. You know what I mean? That's where they're from. They'll be in the park, and they'll be jamming out. And they will basically bootleg the electricity from the electric poles. They'll plug up their gear and bootleg it, and then the cops will shut them down before the jam could actually, really be popping. And yes, the best B-boys are, are the Latins. And the group that Crazy Lake was from is called the Rock Steady Crew. You know what I mean? And them brothers was dope, man. They was on fire. The movie you're talking about is Wild Style. There's another movie called Beat Street as well that represents hip-hop culture well from New York. Run DMC was... Oh, Breaking is...
No. Nope. I'm sorry, bro, if you speak, and I'm sorry. No,
I was just asking, like, is Breaking one?
No.
Breaking represented, but it's in LA. Breaking.
Yeah, but the cats, I was there for that time. The cats that looked at Breaking, it was like there's a whole documentary on it too. It was not a good look. I mean, Breaking was there in that space, yes. But in terms of it being authentic representation of the culture, no, it was considered knockoff culture. So when you talk about Style Wars, Wild Style, Beat Street, and Crush Groove, and even The Last Dragon, those are more pinnacle than Breaking, even though you got Shabba-Doo and Boogaloo Shrimp. Yep. Come on. I'm here, bro. I'm with you.
Yeah. But Breaking, that's LA style. That's their culture. You know what I mean? LA was into that. And LA was into a lot of techno, house music, and dance music back in the day. You know what I mean? That's where their hip-hop was more. They have more upbeat hip-hop. And that's where Breaking come from. Now, they went all gangster with it. With NWA, they changed that. And that was really more for monetary gain. But that's not where it originated from. Like, if you look at Dr. Dre, when he first started, he was doing, like, house and techno music. He had a perm in his head. He wasn't rocking no gold chains and all that. He was dancing. You know what I'm saying? So, that's one representation of culture. But yeah, we're all multifaceted. You know what I mean? That's all I gotta say.
Hey, so I gotta ask the panel. I asked Chris before she left, right before Chicago Rilla jumped on. I want to ask the panel: are we too inclusive with our culture? Are Black people too inclusive with who we let in? Because Chicago, I don't know if you heard the example I gave to Chris. They let J-Lo do a Motown tribute at the Grammys. And I said, there is no way they would allow Fantasia or Jennifer Hudson to do a tribute at the Latin Grammys. So I want to ask the panel. I'm gonna start with King Gene.
Well, since I'll put it this way: since the line for what represents our culture and what doesn't represent our culture is kind of blurred because we're having a hard time describing what it is. Since it's blurred, then if it's something that if we can't draw the dimensions of it ourselves and say, okay, this is what it is, then other cultures have a hard time too. And so it's as if we feel a certain way, like you mentioned about Jennifer Lopez doing that tribute, that Motown tribute. But at the same time, are we as a community saying that that was too far? Or are we saying, okay, well, she did it. Okay, we'll just let that go. You know, we won't make a big deal out of it. I don't think you can necessarily say it is too inclusive or not inclusive enough because we hadn't drawn the line in the sand and said, okay, this is our culture. You don't come over this line until we allow you to. Like Mr. Hall of Fame said, if we hadn't put in any specifications or restrictions, then how can we get upset? If we hadn't said, okay, you can't do this because as a community we decided that you can't do this. There are other artists who are part of our community who could do a good job or even a better job. We didn't do that, so how can we say that is too inclusive or we're too inclusive? I don't get it, man.
Priest, Priest, what you think?
Okay, so I kind of jotted down a little bit. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I said that, are we too inclusive? And you're meaning that we are so accepting of other people, like the example that you gave.
Allow too many people of other races and other cultures to come in. Like, hey, because we are a welcoming people. Oh, you need something to eat? Come on. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you want to get involved in this? Oh, come on, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? The Koreans, the Mexicans, they all get influence from us. So, like, are we too inclusive? Are we too quick to say, come on through? Because I don't know. I know of a few black, even though country is started from black culture. But as modern day country is concerned, I don't know too many black artists that are dominating in. I don't like Darius Rucker, but he's like the only one I can name. And I don't know about Cowboy Troy, but are we too inclusive in our culture or in our society? Black society.
Okay, got it. Thank you for explaining yourself more. Okay, yeah. So we are like the dominant race, right? And we come in different shapes and sizes and shades, as we all know. So for like the example that you gave, Jennifer Lopez, and why she was given the position to represent Aretha Franklin. I say that because someone easily who looks like Jennifer Lopez could be considered black. Someone who looks white could say I'm black, because we come in all shapes and sizes, and I want to say that we're pretty much like universal, whatever. Like so. Like I said earlier, I believe it's because our culture is so easily to be like copied, and our culture is being practiced all day, every day by different races. So with that being said, because like I already believe that we don't really have a culture. So with the example that you gave, Jennifer Lopez, I wouldn't see it as a problem because, for one, I thought she was black, like up until when I was younger. Like I thought she was black, and it wasn't until like probably I want to say maybe the early 2000s or late 2000s, and late 2000, like in 10, when she probably like started going more so towards like her actual she liked Spanish, right? So when she actually started going, because at first she was heavily in the black culture, she was heavily in like singing with because she was dating someone who was in the hip hop the hip hop music industry. Sorry, I believe like if you're affiliated with it, like Eminem, it wouldn't be a problem because, like I said before, it's so easy for others to copy our culture, and I don't see it as a problem that we're too like open, especially if Especially if like you are like you have like a good amount of influence on like our culture and like the people in our culture. Um, yeah. So I'll just say like we're like the dominant race, and we are represented all different shapes and sizes. So I wouldn't consider that we're like too inclusive, like we're too like arms are open. I wouldn't say that. I would say if it's close to it, if I believe that they think that if it's close to it, then why not? I don't think that they would got anybody like Kelly Clarkson to come and do Aretha Franklin, but I don't think that was like a huge problem with Jennifer Lopez. But however, I do understand. I do understand what you were saying.
M3.
Okay, so I'll make it short. I feel like, in my opinion, we are inclusive, um, and it's because I think we have appreciation when other cultures they kind of step into our realm, and so it makes us feel like they're accepting us. So we don't really think to try to place a limit or any regulations to say, hey, enough is enough. I think it stems from um, how we was treated, and so when someone is embracing us and that we feel like this is a part of us, whether they copy our style or not, um, I think that's where we don't really draw the line. We just brush it off and just give it a pass. And shout outs to Bloom and Ebony because she said similar to inviting like the white guy to a cookout. Said that in the chat.
I'm gonna just say this, and I'm gonna go right to Rilla. I think we are very inclusive, and I think it's to our own detriment because with the Jennifer Lopez situation, it is so easy for her to duck in and out of our community. She can come and get the profits off black culture and black entertainment, but when it comes down to black issues, these people are nowhere to be found. They don't contribute to when it comes to the fight, the black fight. These people who can dip in and out of our culture and we just so acceptingly take it, they don't have to pay no dues. Now, the one thing I will say about Eminem is that Eminem put a lot of black people on. He put a lot of black people on. He put 50 Cent on. He put D12 on. He put Obi Trice on. He gave a lot of black people opportunities. So that's why I will always have a respect for Eminem. Look at 50. He got one of the biggest shows for the last 8 years. You know what I'm saying? So I think we are too inclusive to a point because, like I said, I just can't get over that example because, I'm sorry, but they not finna let Ro James or Life Jennings do a tribute to Enrique Iglesias at the Latin Grammys. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So I just like, I don't like, it's cool. If you want to take part in the culture, that's fine. If you want to take part in black art forms, that's cool too. But when it comes down to black issues outside of just being cool and all swagged out, I need you to participate in other things too, like the struggles and the fight and all that kind of stuff, because that is one of the issues that I've had with the LBGT community. They'll ask for black people's assistance, but when it comes to the black issues, a lot of them are nowhere to be found. So I'm gonna go to Chicago Rilla. Are we too inclusive?
Bro, there's so much to unpack in what you just said, but I do want to acknowledge Marshall Mathers in the sense of let's keep it a beam, man. That brother put in work.
Yeah, he did.
He put in work. And I'm not talking about what you were saying around him, but he put in work. If you do early Eminem research and you understand how he was able to run with the Outsiders out of New Jersey, that's a strictly backpack lyrical hip hop. When we get to talking hip hop, man, I can go there. Like, trust me. So I do respect that. Do I agree with his music? Do I listen to anything outside of the Slim Shady LP? Probably not. But to your point also, CJ, in terms of who we put on, let's not forget Mr. Denon Porter too. Let's not forget Royce the 5'9". Let's not forget, like, to your point, even things that he highlighted that people didn't know about outside of Detroit, about like Devil's Night, right? In 8 Mile. So one thing, and I'll tell you this, CJ. One thing I do understand about Detroit, what I loved about the time that I lived in Detroit for 2 years. One of the things that I don't know where everybody else is from, but one of the things that I loved about Detroit,
I'm
that
from Detroit.
oh, I know where you from, CJ. But I'm
Yeah.
saying everybody else.
Oh, okay.
New York.
Oakland.
Okay. Oaktown. Rest
Yeah,
in peace to
Barry.
Zombie. Yeah, rest in peace to Zombie. One thing that I loved about being in Detroit is that, you know, I'm born and raised in Chicago, henceforth Chicago Road. But I lived in Atlanta for 20 years, and then I lived in Detroit for 2 years before moving back home to Chicago. One thing in Detroit that I noticed was that there wasn't racism, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, but racism, what I observe, it doesn't exist in the way that it exists in other cities, in the sense of, like, if you are all poor, then everybody's kicking it. White, black, Hispanic, all y'all kicking it. All y'all around the same water cooler. All y'all at the same lunch truck. It's the same as how you saw it in 8 Mile. You know, when you get, it's only when you get up to a certain status level that it begins to be like, that's where you see the separation. In my opinion, that's what I remember seeing while I was there. And I could be off, but I did appreciate, because I'm blue collar, when I was around other blue collar workers, there was no hint of them looking at me like I'm less than, different than. And so this is where you begin to see the cultures mingle. There's an exchange. Like, it's interesting, because when we talk about culture vultures, nobody has a problem with the fact that Wu-Tang took a whole Asian concept and flipped it and made it their own. And we rock with it and we support them. Why? Because we embrace that. Most of us, people from my generation, we remember going to, we remember Kung Fu theater on Saturdays or Sunday mornings or whatever. But for the most part, you was going to the movie theater on Saturday mornings to go see the next Kung Fu flick. And we wasn't just watching Bruce Lee. It was the 5 Deadly Venoms. It was like all of those flicks. We was watching all of that, right? And so
that's a fact, even today with the Japanese anime. So that's a good point, man.
So what I also say with J-Lo, one thing that does kind of disappoint me is that, J-Lo got put on by brothers. J-Lo is from the Bronx, or Jennifer Lopez. I don't do that J-Lo crap. Jennifer Lopez is from the Bronx. She's Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans have had a deep affinity with Black Americans and the Black American struggle. I don't remember who said they from New York. Is that M3 from New York?
No. Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame is from New York. Okay. Right. Okay. So when we talk B Street, Ray Mo was right there.
Yeah.
That's my man. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So E Black in here, man.
E Black TV.
Blizzy. That's my man, Blizzy. But listen, Puerto Ricans have had a deep affinity, so it didn't surprise me that she was with Diddy. I get the power play. It doesn't surprise me that she went back to Puerto Rican. Who is she married to? Not A-Rod, but
remember, bro, she got her start in Living Color.
No, that's what I was going to initially. We know this. Keenan Ivory Wayans, gave her start, right? And so I'm not offended that she doesn't speak out on Black issues. I mean, she didn't even get one of her biggest records cleared from the Beatnuts. She sampled the Beatnuts and didn't get that record cleared, and they had to sue her to get proper royalties, right? And was it Psycho Lesson, Juju? They both Puerto Rican. Am I right, Mr. Hall of Fame?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Puerto Rican. Yep. So my point is, when you talk about CJ, when you talk about, are we too inclusive? Yeah, I won't say we too inclusive, like you just said. That's part, man. Listen, if I come to your house, bro, if I say, hey man, I'm finna pull up in the D, bro, guess what? You finna roll out the red carpet for me. If we in the South, Nana finna say, hey, I got catfish and spaghetti. You know what I'm saying? Pull up. And look, my grandma, I thank God, man. My grandma, same block, same house, 48 years.
Wow.
On that block, she's considered everybody's grandma still. That's how we are. The problem that we're having when we talk about music culture, I want to pivot real quick, and then I do want to give it up because I don't think Mr. Hall of Fame spoke yet. And I apologize. I do not want to monopolize the time, CJ.
Go
But
ahead.
okay, I appreciate you, bro. But let's keep it let's keep it a bean. You know, when we talk about Black culture, it's not just music and it's not just hip hop culture. It is something that I lean on because similar to jazz, similar to blues, similar to rock and roll, that's American as apple pie, right? The music that and arts and entertainment and things like that. But I want to pivot to something. When we talk about these fashion houses, Name one. You want to name Louis? What are we talking about? Dior. We talk about what? Gucci, Versace, Givenchy. Most people don't even know how to pronounce. They say Givenchy. Right? It's Givenchy, right? So when did these companies move from creating products for wealthy people who could wealthy Europeans? When did they move from that to creating sneakers? Who introduced sneakers as a commodity or sneakers as a product for these companies to replicate? Right?
We did, yeah.
That is the impact of Black culture and influence. Why did Gucci have to come back and apologize, pay homage, and pay like they way to Dapper Dan? Do you understand what I'm saying? How are we gonna sit up here and say Black culture is trash when we got a woman like Fawn Weaver who comes out and discovers the Uncle Nearest estate, buys it, builds the brand, fastest growing whiskey brand in the last 4 or 5 years, so on and so forth, whatever, and exposes the relationship that Nearest Green had with Jack Daniels. In other words, who taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
And see, that's when we, like I said, we have to really start to define what is Black culture. You know what I'm saying? Because people say that, well, Cardi B and the rest of these people that is promoting bad things and bad images, well, that's Black culture. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to start to be clear with these terms when we having these conversations, because it's very important.
I think CJ, I'll say this, if I may, sir. I apologize, but if I may, okay. I think when we start talking about Black culture, I heard somebody say this before. What we try to do is compartmentalize Black people, and what we don't understand is that Black Americans have a unique problem that needs unique attention and unique solution. And I'm not talking about a victim mind state. What I'm saying is, if I go to Pilsen, or if I'm in Detroit and I go to Mexico town, right? The Hispanics in that community are going to have a shared history. They're going to have a shared tradition. And they're going to have a shared lineage, right? If I go to Miami and I go to Little Haiti, right? If I go to Little Haiti, and please pray for Haiti, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have what? A shared heritage, a shared, and the person that discovered Chicago, founded Chicago, was a Haitian, right? So yeah, John Baptiste de Sabo, yes. But my point being is that when we go and look in Greek town and we go to Little Italy, we go to Chinatown, all these ethnicities have a shared heritage. Well, as Blacks in America, what do we have other than knowledge of slavery?
That's a fact.
What do we have? So the culture is going to be, we're always on this journey to try and find ourselves. It's why some of us go to New Orleans. Like the time that I went to New Orleans, bro, and I began to understand what most people would say, voodoo priestess and all this other stuff. When I understood it as voodoo, and I traced the lineage back to Africa, it made me understand more, because those people in New Orleans have more of a connection with France and French ancestry You understand what I'm saying? More so than Africa. When you think about Cajun, Creole, so on and so forth. When you go to other parts of the country, man, then you think about, CJ, think about us being in the Midwest. You talking about the Great Migration. Me and you could both trace our families back to the South. When I was in Detroit and I went to the Detroit Historical Museum, I think it's like on that third floor, they have a whole wing dedicated to the migration from the South all the way up north through Chicago to Detroit. And what most people don't even know, Detroit
That's
is
French for Detroit.
Originally a French. Come on, bro. I'm well versed in this, bro.
Yeah.
I acted like a tourist when I was in your city, fam.
Yeah.
I tried to learn as much as I can and ingratiate myself with the people because I love my people, man. Charles Wright Museum, historical landmark, bro. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these are the things that we got to dig deep into because there are pieces that we can take, we tend to take, and then we're like, no, the black culture should be defined this way empirically. And it's like, no, all of our experiences are jagged. So even if we was to go to South Carolina and you talk about Geechee Gullah, right? That's a completely different experience. That Geechee experience completely is similar to Creole, Creole in New Orleans, similar, but quite different and way different than CJ, me and your ancestors' experience on that great migration from the South to the North. Because we trace our lineage back through what? Memphis, Mississippi, Arkansas. That's where most of our relatives in the Midwest come from, right?
Alabama too. A lot of them came
Sure,
from.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't discount that. I just know Alabama, for me, what I experience is Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Those all tend to coalesce around each other. But my point being is that the black culture is fragmented because all of our experiences are fragmented based on the lineage that we have and how we all trace it back to slavery. Again, I'm not talking victim mentality. What I'm talking about for me personally is that I understand and appreciate it all. I understand and appreciate it all.
Yeah, King Gene made a good point a couple shows ago. He said you cannot be black in this country, be a black American without having some sort of trauma. And when you made the point that we have a unique problem. No other culture in this country or no other race, anybody has the situation that we've been dealt. But I do want to ask for the final question, y'all, because I know it's getting late and I didn't want to have y'all on here too long. Will grassroots and independence be the black cultures or black society's saving grace? Will grassroots and independence be the saving grace of black society? And I ask this question because I don't know how many of you are familiar with Tariq Nasheed.
Yeah.
I've been following Tariq Nasheed for a while, for about 10 years. And this brother in 18 days has managed to raise $500,000, over $500,000 for a museum. And I thought that was an amazing feat. Now he's shooting for $1 million because he wants to talk about, the foundational black Americans and that history there. Do you think that will be the saving grace, the grassroots, the independence? Japrice, are you still here? I was going to start with you.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm just off camera because I have the baby. But
okay.
So you said grassroots and independence.
Well,
do you think you can like break it down? Like talk to me like I'm 5.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So when I say grassroots and independence, I've always thought that no politician, no pastor, none of that, we're going to quote unquote save black people. I've always thought I always thought the solution was economic independence. And to me, it's easy on paper. I mean, like when you talk about, like, it makes sense. You become financially independent. That's how you cripple the system, especially a system where we contribute $3 billion to an economy where we contribute $3 billion to it every single year. It's just about the money and the circulation and how we do it. But that's what I'm asking. Will the financial independence, will the grassroots, the independent media, and I guess I should have broke that down more. Will that be the saving grace of Black society? Will it change the way Blacks are viewed?
This question is very hard for me to answer. I really don't, because I think it takes a little. It takes a little bit more. It's gonna take a little bit more than that, and also I believe it's a lot of like people who think like us. I mean, it's not a lot of people who think like you and I or everybody else on this channel. It's more of them than it is of us. So, however, I do believe that anything is possible, but it's just getting people on board is my answer. If that kind of makes sense. I'm finding it a very hard to answer your question.
No, that's no problem. No, that's no problem at all. King Gene.
Well, I think that anytime a community begins to unravel, it would be necessary to go back to the basics, the foundations of things, and maybe going back to the grassroots will allow us to find the mechanism that was successful in the past. One of those mechanisms is having a family. There's so much difficulty attached to the Black community because of the decline of our family structure. And so if when you refer to grassroots, if you're saying going back to the basic things that made us successful in the past, then I think it will be. But now, how many people will sign up to go back and look at those things and honestly make the changes? I don't think it's going to be too many people that's going to look back at those things and view them as something that's going to cause them to be successful in the future, because that's probably the reason why a lot of people did away with those basic things, because they feel like they had moved past it. So I don't think, even though for me it probably would be, would be an answer to a lot of questions, I don't think for a lot of people it will. I don't think they'd be accepting of going back to the basic structures that made us successful as a community.
Hall of Fame.
Wow. I think there's a few things I'm gonna speak to. One, I gotta give Detroit their flowers, CJ. I got to, man. I gotta represent the D, because you mentioned it, so I gotta represent it. From Big Sean to Marvin Gaye, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? To Eminem, to Royce, Rest in Paradise, to Proof, man. I gotta give Detroit their flowers, and I definitely, CJ, you gotta give me one of the Detroit Lion jackets, man, from a Beverly Hills Cop, brother. Hook me up, man. I need one of them joints now, man. Before it get cold.
I'll see what I can do.
Brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even a Detroit Lions fan, but I love that jacket. But yeah, man. With that being said, and some people are gonna be in their feels about this, man. Some people who are watching gonna be on their feels about this, but all culture is really African culture. You know what I mean? If we want to be technical about it. You know what I mean? All culture derives from African culture. You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, I'm not black. I'm Jamaican. I'm not African. I'm Mexican. I'm not African. I'm Ecuadorian." No. You are African. You are. You know what I mean? You just been misinformed, miseducated. You know what I mean? Programmed to think that you are a flag or you are something else besides you have an African culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's really the problem. And yes, we do need to have more grassroots things. We do need to have more of our own land, more of our own companies, more of our own wealth. That will definitely change everything for us systematically. It'll change everything for us, education wise. It'll just change everything for us completely. You know what I'm saying? If we really, really have more of things that we are owning ourselves, and that we are just empowering ourselves, because we only really have 1% of the of wealth. You know what I'm saying? And that has to change. Well, less than 1%. And I'm glad you referenced Tariq Nasheed as well, brother. The Hidden Colors documentaries are on point. Whoever hasn't seen them, definitely go research them and definitely go see what they're about. But yeah, we definitely need to have more things that we are taking that we are taking a part of that's our own, that empowers us and that helps us to be better and move better in a more positive and loving situation.
E Blizzle, what's going on, man?
E Black TV, my guy.
What's going on, my guy?
What's cracking? So look, man, you just got here,
today?
but it's Black culture trash. I'm gonna just ask you a whole bunch of questions that we done pretty much summed up. Is Black culture trash? What is Black culture? Are we too inclusive as Black people? Go ahead and speak all that.
Okay. First of all, Black culture is not trash. What is Black culture? Black culture is obviously. I can get real deep into it, but like if you really think about how we got here, there's a lot of things that we've had to deal with and we've taken from the motherland. A lot of people don't understand like stuff like pouring libations is an African tradition. Hymns is an African tradition. Call and response is an African tradition. There are dancing. There are things that are in the subculture that we do now that a lot of people don't really understand. I can get real deep into it. I don't want to disrupt the flow of the conversation because y'all really already touched on it. Because I've been watching and y'all didn't touch on it. So, but essentially, what was the last part?
Will grassroots and will independence, being independent as a people, will the grassroots be the saving grace for Black society?
Well, in any culture, period, the grassroots are the heartbeat of whatever culture you're in. So definitely, I always I'm from Oakland, California, so we are the definition of grassroots. We understand the power that organizing African Americans together will do. Huey P. Newton said that when the brothers in L.A. were throwing Molotov cocktails, a guy in Oklahoma, a Black man in Oklahoma, will repeat, but they got to understand why they're doing it. And Black people as a cumulative or a react or a copying. Not I want to say copying people, but we do mimic what other Black people do. See as successful. So when I remember when like the Rodney King riots was going on, a lot of other cities were rioting too, but a lot of people don't really remember that time. You look at the Black Lives Matter situation, it mimics across the world. Nobody has to tell anybody that we have to go to the street. So no matter what, we just have to make sure that we're if we're going to start off in the grassroots, is that we have to have it in a way that is profitable towards us, and we have to define the narrative. So yeah, basically, yeah, grassroots is the foundation of revolutionary change, and I think you study the history of Black history and you don't have to go too far to even see that as long as Black people define where their attitudes are going towards and what they're trying to get to, the whole country will follow and they will pay the price of our retribution. So,
all right, Chicago Rilla, it's on you. Will the grassroots and financial independence be the saving grace for Black society?
Yeah, so first of all, let me apologize, CJ, for the struggle stream. The ghost of P. Ray is alive and well. If you know, you know. So I had to switch sources real quick. Blizzy, I know you coming from the perspective of Oakland and the tradition and the legacy of the Panthers. I salute and rock with that. The chairman, Fred Hampton, reverberates through the city to this day, right? I think, it's funny because we bring, like right now, the conversation on the other platform that I contribute to, the conversation is around an outsider being brought in to give different perspective. Well, this is something I've been looking at the whole time I've been back in Chicago. And like I said, when I go to Chinatown, man, listen, you're never going to see, like, I don't know what it's like in Detroit right now, CJ. I don't know if they're gonna revamp Mexico Town. I don't know if they gentrified Mexico Town.
Not
Greek,
yet. Sure
it's
they
coming
working
though.
on it.
Yes, right. Okay. Same thing with Pilsen here. Pilsen was a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, right? And they've came, and you just see traces of Pilsen, but now you see hippies and dog walking and all types of, whatever. And I'm not knocking it, but it is what it is, right? So one thing I know for certain, in Chinatown, I don't care what corner of the globe you go to, you will never see gentrification in Chinatown. You know why? Because they leverage you never hear about who they vote for, how they vote. You never hear about people openly courting they vote per se. But what you will see is them, if you're paying attention, they groom their candidate. They groom them, they fund them, they put them in office, and it's not the candidate coming up with the agenda. They're telling the candidate the agenda, right?
Yep.
And so when you talk about how things will change for us, what I've come to understand, and what I advocate for is that we as Black Americans, that's why we got to move. We got to groom, develop, and fund our own candidate, put them in position. And if they not executing our agenda, see, they can't come in and sell. See, this is the thing. This is what we get lost at. It'd be like, yo, I'm coming in, I'm selling you this hope. Well, I don't need you to sell me hope because I already know what I need going in. But again, like I said the other day, if you don't know who your alderman is, your senator, if you don't know who's on your local school council, if you don't know who your congressperson is, what are we talking about? See, and I rock with Tariq Nasheed. I really do. I rock with him. But this whole clash between ADOS and FBA and reparations and this, that, and the third, this is one of the things where I agree with my co-host in that I don't have time for those arguments, man. We gotta move. We are in a 3-alarm fire and we gotta move. So I don't have the time, like you think about Ice Cube and that contract with Black America and how people literally defecated on of all people, O'Shea Jackson, the real O'Shea Jackson. Like,
Right.
Of all people, like that's crazy. How many people he employed, how many Black people, how many careers he's launched, right? Like that's insane to me. And we didn't trust him enough to see how everything would play out or research the plan and what he was putting forth. And so
that was ridiculous, though. Well,
I agree with you, CJ.
Yeah, that was ridiculous how they did Q.
Yeah, I just don't think, bro. I'll be honest and I'll be quiet. I don't think it's gonna come from grassroots per se, because we've seen those movements rise and they get squashed, and because they can't stand the test of time because they don't have the support from the people. Whether it's and I'm not trying to be funny because I don't believe in the organization, but I believe in the sentiment. But if you say BLM, even if we go NAACP, right? Like, a lot of these grassroots movements, Black Panther movement, civil rights movement, all these movements, they really don't stand. So I don't rock with really FBA, ADOS, or none of that. What I do rock with and what I believe is that all politics is local. And I believe that it's incumbent on us as like minds, brothers like you, CJ, and I think that's Kingdom, Hall of Fame, and Marcus, I think. And Sister Japrice, I'm not forgetting you. The brothers were shouting you out and loving on you. They say you look natural, feminine, fit, and submissive, and cooperative. They was in the comment bigging
They was
you
definitely thirsting.
Yeah, they was thirsting. They didn't say you was thirst trapping. They just said you was. They definitely was in that thirsting. So what I think is these conversations are important. That's why I wanted to come up and salute, man. I wanted to come up and lend a voice because I think it's going to take all of us. And here's the thing, CJ, whether y'all agree, like when y'all see me in other spaces, whether you agree with me or not, know this, man, my heart, like I have a real genuine good heart, man. I'm not clout chasing. I'm not sitting up here trying to get views. I don't need to be on camera. The other day, CJ invited me up. I couldn't join, man. I can't send my support this way, but I'm gonna send it that way. You understand what I'm saying?
He looked
To
out.
keep the
He
move.
sent to the cash
No,
app to the machine.
Don't say that, man.
I appreciated it.
Man, listen, it was my pleasure. But what I'm saying is, I'm going to support, and it's important that even when Killer Mike says this, and I promise I'll be quiet, CJ, I promise. Killer Mike says this. He says, you know, we all have a different way about getting there. You may not agree with how I'm going about it. I might not agree with how you going about it, but we all want the same end result. So guess what? You flank from the left. You bring up the troops from the right. I'm going to come from the rear. Guess what? When we do it that way, a three-pronged attack, we're going to all get there together. And that's all I care about, man. So when I'm sitting up there beating my chest saying, I love my people, that's real talk.
Hey, but you made a real good point though, Chicago. When you were talking about the local elections and the local government, do you remember Akai Gurley and Peter Liang when we were talking about the Asians out in New York, the Asian cop that killed that black man? And those the Asian people and the Asian politicians and everything like that, they made noise to that jury and to that court. And what happened? He got off. He was sentenced to like 800 hours of like community service, something like that. 5 years probation, something like that. But when you say that, it makes all the sense in the world, because that's what talks. When you move, like I said, like we all been saying, they're not courted when it comes to their vote. You don't see a whole bunch of people going out to the Asian community saying, hey, we got to get the Asians to vote, rock the vote. We need the Asian vote. They don't vote like that because they don't care, because they know they have their economics. They know they have their independence. So, man, that's pretty much what it's all about, man, to me. But any last words? I want to give y'all some last words before we shut this thing down. I appreciate everybody who participated tonight, man. Anybody want to say anything?
Well, I'm sorry. I know I came late, and I just wanted to add more and more to the conversation. And I know y'all. I see I'm just now looking at the time. I'm like, dang, I am super late. So I apologize. But
this wasn't planned though. This was like spur of the moment.
Understood. I would have loved to start off on it because you get an Oakland brother. I'm sorry, but like, I think a lot of times we down ourselves in the community, and we don't realize our power, and we don't realize the structures that can be put in place to regain our power. It's been proven how, and in the past, how it's been done. And it's not some magical thing. It's really just give inspiration to the next generation. Put young people in charge, young men, gather the young men in the community, give them something that they can replicate. Then the other young men in other communities will always replicate it. Then you design an accord. You say, this is what we're fighting for. You get it approval. Basically, it's stereotypical grassroots movement. Like, a lot of times we complain about the voting, and I tell people, it's just like rappers. You can't blame a rapper. I mean, the rapper can't blame the record label if you are not in your community getting more the sales. You have to be in the community that you are from and getting the sales. And if your local person is not getting voted in, or if your local government is not a reflection of you, there's a reflection of the party. So you need to gear the party up, get the registered votes, get the database, get all the stuff together, because that's what you're supposed to do. And then you start expanding. That's how, like, people don't understand.
But to what end though? Because Detroit, we just recently had an election, and it was like 4 black candidates on the polls, and only 10% of black people showed up to vote. So it's just like, at what extent do we do it? And I think that's my biggest struggle, because I know that we have a unique issue, but at the same time, sometimes we have to want better for ourselves. So, like, at what end do we do that too? Like,
in terms, I'm sorry to cut you off, because I see what you're saying. and I'm speaking really specifically to that. It is up to those 4 black candidates to be the inspiration of the people. That 4 black candidates do not or have to be inspirational to inflict vote. This is politics. You have to get butts in the seat. And just saying that, oh, the 10% didn't want to vote, statistically, most off-season non-national voting registration or voting is across the board low. So you're already fighting up an uphill battle. So when you do have these off season or off political season elections, you have to get in the community. You have to get the registration. You have to get the phone calls. You got to start making calls. Get the buses. Get the church buses. This is nothing new. This is what grassroots is about. You can't. So when I hear people say, like I remember you said that before, and I was telling people, this is the fault of the people who are trying to be elected. You have to do the hard work. You cannot be a black face and expect to get black votes. You have to go in the community, knock door to door, say, "Grandma, did you vote? Early voting, did you vote?" I know.
But Blizzy, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I just push back real quick?
Yeah.
Because what I think we need to move to now, sir, is if we're going to look at other communities and what they do successfully. I wasn't familiar with Detroit just went through an election cycle or whatever. But however, what I do know is this, that the candidates that ran, they should have been vetted 2, 3, 4 years ago. Right. And what's happening is, Blizzy, for what you saying, yeah, they need to provide inspiration. We've been going off of that way too long. I don't have no more time for inspiration. I'm way inspired. I got a pastor for that. You know what I'm saying? I got mentors. I got motivational speakers for that. What we should be doing as a people, and you being the cat from Oakland and you studying movements, I think you would agree with this, is that we now have to identify and fund our candidate and say, hey, candidate, this is the agenda. Now, the candidate can push back and say, hey, well, this is how government work, and this is what I think will work, and this is what I don't think will work, or so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. But the concept of, or the idea that people don't come out and vote, I would say in local elections, I disagree. I mean, I'm not talking about the big races. I'm not talking about the mayor's race. I'm talking about, like, for the most part, like if we were to go, CJ, if I was to say, let's go to Great Lakes Crossing, and we look at that community, they coming out every time. If it's something to do with them kids, if it's something to do with zoning issues, and what I'm saying is, instead of looking at, other cultures per se, we could look at suburbs and find the answers. Right, we could replicate what they're doing well in the suburbs, replicate that right there in the city, because what else is happening, Blizzy? The communities that they relegate. Well, I'll say for Chicago. I know this in Atlanta too, and I saw this in Detroit, which made me really sad. The communities that they relegated us to said was trash, and we ran them down, and they done tore down the projects, and they pushing everybody further south in the suburbs, off the bus lines, and making Section 8 real attractive for people who can't make it back to the city. Then guess what? The people that lived in the suburbs who don't look like us are doing what? They're coming back in the city. What would happen if we took the time to replicate the mindset of, okay, what are they doing successful in the suburbs, right? They're grooming their candidates, and they're going in with an agenda, and the candidate is advocating that on their behalf. And when that candidate is not doing that, you're out of there. Your funding is cut. No more funding and no more power position for you. You out of there. Period, point blank, end of sentence.
Yeah, and I know, I'm sorry, CJ, I can't blame, but I just want to push back on it, because politics is an intrinsic game. When you get into politics, you have to put your own money in. I've had friends who ran for politics. They've told me that just to get in the door is sometimes 60 to 100 grand. You have to pay the membership fees to the Democratic Party, or depending upon what party you're representing. You're also probably facing a lawyer who just moved into town from out of town, or you're a businessman who's finally figured out how to get his residency in this certain situation. So, you know, I want to just push back, and because you're saying one thing, you're saying that the suburbs are able to focus on a candidate and then they're able to push behind that candidate. I'm saying the exact same thing, but I'm saying inspiration. And that's really both of the same thing. The suburbs are inspired by their political base. We have to get Black people to be inspired by their political base. So we're both saying the same thing, but I think I'm just not saying that. I'm more or less thinking of it from how kind of candidates actually do fill out their actual political forms. So I know that how these candidates pop up in the Black community. So like I said, when you say 4 Black people are popping up, or when you're saying these such candidates are popping up, I'm thinking, okay, that Democratic base did not get their lines in order. They did not say, hey, you are the front runner. You know what I'm saying?
I know y'all saying that they have to do their part in the making the people interested, but do we care? Do enough of us care at all about what's going what's going on?
You have to look at the voter rolls. I'm telling you this. I've worked in the voter office. The voting rolls do not change more than 10 or 15%, depending upon their election. The old people still vote. The people like me who vote, we still are connected. You're trying to inspire the people, the walk-in voters. That's the people you need to inspire. So when you don't inspire the walk-in voters, you're essentially losing the race, and that's a political strategy. It's not an epiphany or some type of just natural force that just somehow happens and Black people are marching in the street. We want this. No, it's a political strategy. And like I said, you have to get on the phone lines. You have to get on the mailing list. You have to start, this is a political structured way of doing things. And you can't, and the problem is that African Americans, we're not plugged in enough till it's too late. So, like I said, I want to emphasize it's a political, strategic way of doing voting.
Blizzy, hey, can I ask you something? Those voters that need to be inspired when they walk in, are they homeowners or are they renters?
That doesn't matter. You're American citizen.
I think no. I'm not talking about whether we have equal rights. What I'm talking about is the mindset of the level of investment I'm going to have in a thing, right? Like I said, and that includes the political process. So you think, so wait, let me ask you this. So are you going on record to say you think homeowners and renters have the same mindset when it comes to voting?
Yes, because I've lived in apartment complexes where I've had police officers in my apartment living in there. I've had nurses living in there. I've had teachers living in rented places. These are American citizens. There is no difference between a homeowner and a renter. They're just American citizens. So that's the kind of talk that kind of gets us kind of swayed because we think that the homeowners will care more. Police officers live in the same community that we live in. So they vote just as much as the person who's working at the call center. And they rent.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting perspective, though, just to how the mindset would be of somebody who owns. I've never even thought about it from that aspect. I've always been somebody who participated in local elections. So, but ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about it. I think it's time for us to wrap it on up. The next show will be on Friday, so y'all know y'all more than welcome to come back. But I'm gonna give everybody a chance to say their platforms where they can be found. I'm gonna start with King Gene.
All right. My platform, of course, is called the King Gene. It has to do with manhood, masculinity, and we just started a new series that talks about the help me, and so we're going to be advocating for the feminine, the soft, well, I guess we could say Japrice. The sisters like Japrice, we're gonna advocate for them, and like Chris, because I think we're giving too much emphasis to sisters who might not be as positive as they are. So we're gonna start advocating for the sisters among us that believe in real femininity. So check me out. As I mentioned, the name of the channel is the King Gene.
Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and go ahead. Was you sleep?
No. I have two phones, so sometimes the other phone distracts me by mistake. My
Oh,
bad,
you
y'all.
good?
Sorry.
You good, bro? Just shout out your platform and everything like that, man.
Most definitely. First of all, I got to shout out you first, man. Everybody, please like and subscribe to CJ Cows Experience, please.
Appreciate it.
The CJ Cows on YouTube, please show him
Appreciate it.
love. Show love to him and his wonderful, beautiful lady on that platform. What is it called again?
The
You got
Traveling Heartbeats. That's our travel vlog, and I love cruises, so I'll be cruising once a
Yo,
month.
you
You
do be
already know how
cruising.
I do.
Bro, we got to do a Soul Train cruise, brother. We got to do the Soul Train cruise. I watch the Love Boat every night.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm on. That's a Carnival cruise on a 4-day. That's a Soul Train cruise right there, bro.
Here
So
we go.
come on
Yes,
through.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm here. But yeah, shout out to you first. Shout out to King Gene and his platform. Most definitely. Please like and subscribe to his platform. Shout out to the Lapeef Network and their platform. Please like and subscribe to their platform as well.
For
E
sure.
Black TV, my guy. You know what I mean? Shout out to you as well. Please like and subscribe to his platform. He has some incredible people that comes on. Some
Man.
great, wonderful guests on there. Shout out to the sister as well. Sister, I keep forgetting your name. I'm so sorry. Japrice, right? Shout out to you and everything that you're doing. But yes, I am the network manager for Knowledge and Relationships. Me and the great M3, along with First Lady Tammy and DJ Eddie, and so many other great, wonderful people on there as well. You can find me if you have any questions about that platform on MR Hall of Fame Forever 23. Once again, MR Hall of Fame Forever 23 on Instagram. I'll answer any questions or any inquiries you have about the show, or you want to know any content. I can answer that as well. But yes, thank you so much for having me on there, and peace and blessings to all of y'all. Much love.
Caprice.
So first I want to say thank you so much for letting me once again join the panel, and thank you for being so accepting of me because we don't know each other, but so I don't really have a platform once again. I mean, I do have an Instagram. I'll put it like in the private chat. It's Yoakum _J, YOAKUM _J. Sometimes I post stuff on there and or on my Facebook. So I will be getting a platform, like a channel or like a podcast very soon. I remember like 6 years ago, like actually 6 years ago, I used to talk about this stuff a lot. And I used to talk about like being feminine. I used to talk about this like stuff heavy. And I got kind of scared because of the backlash and the name calling. So I was mute. I think I've been mute for probably like a year. Because I was so like, I lost family. Like I literally have no friends anymore. Just besides my close family and my really good cousin Christina. But
well, you got us.
Yeah, I'm so happy now. Yeah, I'm like, I was telling my husband, like, this makes me so happy because I get like people who think like me, or we're trying like find solutions, even though we might not agree with every single thing, and we have the same end goal, and we're trying to implement our positive ideas in the household, which makes a huge impact because our children will go out in society and they'll meet people like that, and it just works. And I believe that may be a way to start this whole new Black culture, in a positive way. But yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much.
E Black looked like a Detroit cat, man. Like, I don't know, man. Something about E Black. He just looked like a Detroit player, bro. Like, E Black could sell salt to a slug, man. I don't know what it is.
Oh no, man. But I'm from the town, obviously, CJ, I made it this time, no hiccups, no
For sure.
But obviously I have a platform called eBlack TV. This week we're having Black C from RBL Posse. If you don't know, he's a West Coast legend. He's gonna come on, he's gonna talk about faith and how the 2/3 of his group got murdered and how he survived that. So, check that out. But like I said, definitely check out CJ. He's been, opening his doors to a lot of great minded people. So check him out.
Black. I mean, not Black. My bad. Chicago Rilla.
No,
Chicago
I'm black
Rilla.
too. Hey man, first of all, salute to you, brother. I remember when I was still, I wasn't in front of cameras and all this other stuff, and I wasn't giving y'all all this simp beta big coochie energy.
Really, you like it when they say that, man.
Oh, I love, man. Listen, man.
Love it, bro.
Hey, man. Low key, I'll be in the comments like, man, F them kids. I remember you went on Anton's platform though, and you said, "Yo, man, I got the channel coming, and it's gonna be specific. It's gonna be a niche. The content is specific and it's niche." And I was like, I thought that was just so dope. And I know Anton encouraged you in that moment, but me as a marketer, my background is marketing, my passion is marketing. And I was just like, man, I thought that was so dope. And so even when you and I started dialoguing, you was reaching out to me, man, I was just like, yo, anytime I have an opportunity to come and support, man, I'm rocking with you. I went through and watched a couple things. The first thing, I think one of the first titles I saw was the other day where you was just like the worst shift ever. And I was just like, yo, I just got off one.
Yeah, man. Man, listen, I just want to say real quick. I know you're doing your thing, but
no.
I was really inspired by Lapeef and everybody on the platform, man. And shout out to all the ladies, everybody on the platform, even though I don't be agreeing with Kay a lot of the times. But I still got love for her too. She's to me a very valuable player on the show. And I just, like I said, man, when I see y'all go, I go. So y'all gotta keep going, because that's the culture. To me, that is the new culture. When I see people like y'all, people like Anton, people like Kevin Samuels, y'all going and y'all thriving, that's the culture. To me, that is Black culture. Even though it may not claim to be a Black channel, but to me it's Black culture, because it is what it is Black people, a bunch of Black people doing great things. So by definition, I would rather have that be a representation of what somebody may perceive as Black culture versus anything that's negative, because there's nothing y'all doing that's negative. Everything y'all doing is positive. So you mute it.
Let me say this, and I'm not speaking as an official. I had to take my Fashion Geek Rock Nation hat. Black, you done came for me a couple times with some of my Fashion Geek joint. But anyway, listen, man, because I'm not speaking as an official delegate for JR, but just so people know who listening to the podcast may not know who I am or why y'all shout me out or whatever. First of all, I'm the custodial engineer over there at the Lapeef Network. I clean the toilets, I clean the bathrooms, I make sure the lockers are straight. I make sure when JR and Anton and Kay and Courtney pull up, whatever they have on their rider, I make sure the Skittles, Courtney likes her Skittles. She don't like the yellow Skittles in there. So I make sure I go in and pick out all the yellow Skittles. The point being is that I'm a fan of this, man. And JR, I believe he's a real genius dude.
Oh, yeah.
He's pushing, he's genuinely invested in having a tough conversation. And so what y'all see in real time, even last Thursday show, man, that really happened. It wasn't scripted. We didn't plan it. When y'all get the topics, we get the topics. I have no idea what we talking about until JR puts it up. We do not have pre-production meetings. And what I think JR is doing is trying to have like authentic conversations. It's similar to if any one of the brothers, and Japrice, if you walked in the nail salon or beauty salon, you don't know what topic is about to come up. It's just y'all get in there, y'all vibing, and boom, somebody say something, and then boom, it's going, right? And so, but that's where you can find me every Thursday. And if you're in the Facebook group, you can find me giving y'all, all types of jaw jacking and slacking over there too. And you know what I'm saying? I talk my talk, but my passion, honestly, I really want people to understand, because I think they have me misconstrued, and I may have to, shift some things around so they get to understand the boy. I have a passion for my people first in my community, but I really have a passion for men And it doesn't always translate to what we see in the manosphere right now, where men are, kind of like this is how I perceive it. Just it is what it is. Whatever. I'll take the hit. Men ganging up on women, bashing women. We call that holding them accountable. No, we're calling out bad behavior. We're calling out all these other things. But more importantly than that, I want the brothers to be right, because I know when the brothers are right, the sisters will come. And the ones that don't come, them the ones cool. We only need 10%. Kevin Samuelson came on the platform, said that multiple times. I only need the 10%. We only need the 10% to advance the culture forward. So I appreciate you, CJ, man. I'm still rocking with you, bro. Anytime I can, lend a hand and come on to support, I'm right there with you, bro. I appreciate the work you're doing.
I appreciate y'all, but y'all can't go yet. I got one more thing for y'all. And that's the joke of the day.
Uh-oh.
That's the joke for the day. I hope y'all ready.
Yes,
I hope y'all ready. What do you call a pudgy sidekick?
I don't know. What do you call a pudgy sidekick?
A fortune teller. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That has been today's episode of the CJK Experience. I'm so happy that y'all joined me today. It was a phenomenal show. I had some phenomenal guests. And joke of the day. I need to do stand-up somewhere. And it's so crazy because when I go to work and I tell these jokes to my patients, they always say, "Don't quit your day job." So
man, that's the worst dad joke ever.
So I appreciate y'all being here, man. I'm about to get up out of here and show my lady some attention, man. So I'm gonna holler at y'all in a minute. Peace.